Can you tell us a bit more about India Foundation's relations with the government? Does it also get directions or guidance from the government? And what are the funding model that India Foundation follows?
So, India Foundation's relationship is not so much with the government as it will be with the party. And that also is a much more informal relationship, because the BJP also tends to have some of its own smaller size think tanks or organizations. But what happens is that in our kind of setup, or I maybe guess in every kind of setup, that you as if you come from the same let's say ideological setup, you are in a, let's say, position, or have a little bit of access and influence, because everybody is your colleague. These are people you have worked with. These are people, some of who are in the government, some of them who are in the party, some of them who are outside the party. But so you have that kind of relationship. Now, how does the government work with you? Well, I guess when your government is in power, obviously because you know the people, it tends to work more closely with you, because you share the same ideology, you share the same viewpoint, so it's but natural. But even when we were, I worked for 5 years when there was a UPA government in Paris, and I was, that we worked with them as well at that point. Of course, not with that level of proximity, but yes, whenever there was matters of national interest, we found that they were also engaged, they were also contributing. So it's just the quantum, I would say, because as a think tank, our main work is more where politics, etc., meet national interests as against pure political interests. So to that extent, we work with the government. Sometimes the government has also the agendas and things that it would like non-governmental organizations to push areas of soft influence, so soft power. So there also we work very closely with the government, like other think tanks. And then as far as our funding is concerned, our funding is like a really typical think tank. We sometimes get them from private organizations, sometimes we get them from government who host functions, etc. Then we write research reports, we get some publications, etc. And sort of a bunch of things that contribute to our running of a think tank. Think tanks aren't, we're like a 25, 30 people organization, isn't like we are a huge mammoth organization. We look bigger than most people figure out how much we are.
I'm really keen to hear your views on how the developments in Bangladesh will affect India, and whether it's our foreign policy is in the right direction vis-a-vis Bangladesh.
Just a supplementary here, because you talked about this Indian Ocean thing and all. I think one of the last events you hosted was in Dhaka.
Yes, a couple of years. Not the last one, the one before that. Yeah, May 2020 was in Dhaka. So I think, see, what is obviously unfolded in Bangladesh is, at first level, let's accept, is their internal affair, and is something that, was, for whatever reasons, one can analyze what happened, but you have to be an expert in Bangladesh, what happened there. But I'll ignore it, but I'll try to look at it only from India's perspective. From India's perspective, we had in Sheikh Hasina a friendly government with whom we had certain degree of comfort and access, etc. So that was very good. That allowed us a benign period of relationships with Bangladesh, where we were able to sort out our border disputes. We were able to ensure that certain of our economic interests are met, etc., including our infrastructure development. And so to that extent, I think that in Bangladesh gave us those X number of years as far as. So I think to that extent, it's a great tribute to our, it's good work done. We've achieved what we were not able to achieve for the last 75 years in many areas in these 50 years. Now, we are also just one of the players in the scheme of things. There are other players. And when these things like this happen in a country, obviously, it's always, it will, in the short run, hit India because, it's lost a friend. But India's influence, India's approach, India's access in Bangladesh is much beyond just one political party. We have, abilities to engage with all political parties. So wherever is the next government that will be there, we will obviously engage with them, and our influence and access continues to be there. And And I think even in Bangladesh, I go there very often. I know Bangladesh also quite understands that the importance of friendly relations with India, no matter which regime is in power, so I think once these things stabilize and I think it will be business as usual, and India will reforge its things. Now, of course, at the margin, things might be a little bit different in terms of if other dispensations come, how do they first think of India? I think one thing that might India will have to work on the perception is that maybe in Bangladesh there may be a feeling that we went long on Sheikh Hasina, and therefore that is something that that might go a little bit in the short run against India, but that's a lot more about perception. And I think once we are able to provide the same kind of support to whichever government is in place, I think that will correct. But I think certain lines India has been able to draw with its neighbors, which I think, irrespective of the political regimes, and we are seeing that on our western side as well, are now clear. That India is a big country, India is a friendly country, and India is a giving country. But beyond a certain point, if India's interests are hurt, and beyond, then India will not tolerate that. So I don't think, and I hope not, that anybody will again in Bangladesh try to, let's say, use their soil as a way to foster, for example, terrorism. So I think those kind of red lines, which were, I guess, for many years ambiguous, and therefore at times political regimes in neighboring countries took that as an opportunity to play around with India. That, I think, has been drawn to a line. Of course, large geopolitical players will always be in the play, and I think politics is also like a game of boxing, like elections. When you go in a game of boxing, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and sometimes you punch and sometimes you get punched. So nothing, so significant.